Thank you for watching WISD TV and welcome to another edition of Know Your Schools. My name is Dale Caffey. My special guest today is David Ellis. He is the supervisor of attendance, truancy, and dropout recovery at Waco ISD. David, thank you so much for joining us today. The title in itself says a lot, but talk to me a little bit about a day in the life of David Ellis at Waco ISD.
Well, it's a busy day. As you said, my title is attendance and truancy and dropout recovery, so it's a multifaceted job. And so basically my job is to try to help keep kids in school. It's attendance, it's truancy, which means they're not attending school, and or dropouts, which means they quit school altogether. And so the goal of my job and my department is to try to get kids either in school, keep them in school, or get them back into school.
A lot goes into trying to meet your objectives, one of which is trying to get kids to come to school. Some of those young people don't have a way to come to school. They live within the boundaries of a school and need some transportation. They don't have transportation at home. And one of the things you worked on a trial basis near the end of last school year was something very interesting with the Waco Transit system. If you could talk a little bit about how that came about.
Well, when I first came to Waco, that was my first job in Waco. I was a bus driver for Waco Transit. Mm-hmm. After I took this job, I was sitting in truancy court one day, and the judge had one of the kids asked him to stand up and said, "Why aren't you in school?" And his answer was simple: I don't have a ride. I don't have a way to get there. And so after court, I began to talk with him a little bit, found out where he lived, found out the Waco Transit comes right by his house, and I said, "Well, could you ride Waco Transit?" And he said, "Well, I don't have the money to ride." So my mind began to work. After some negotiations with Waco Transit and help from the mayor and the superintendent and some others, then we did a trial program where secondary students could ride Waco Transit bus for free for 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. And so we felt like that was it's a really positive benefit for the schools and for the kids and for the community.
And you actually kept some stats in that last 6 weeks of how many students ended up using, or how many trips did students take on the bus?
Almost just far short of 800.
Wow.
Yeah.
So with that being so promising, talk to me about what you tried to do this summer to keep that program going.
Well, that was one of my intentions, was that if there was a way to keep that going. And so we've gone back to the table with Waco Transit, and so we're going to provide some funds for them for this next year, and we're going to run that program for the entire school year of 2013-14. So I'm really pleased with that, and think it'll provide some additional opportunities for the students here.
Of course, if the students are not in class, they can't be learning probably, and probably for the most part getting in trouble if they're just on the streets. We talked about getting them there. What about those who get there but decide that school is not really what they want to do that day, and so they either leave the campus or get out of the car that's taking them there but don't end up inside the building, thus becoming truant? You deal a lot with that. What do you try to do in order to curb the truancy that's going on in the district?
Well, it's a big issue, not only in our district, but after a good bit of research, it's a problem nationwide, and those kinds of things. And so it's a combination effort between the school staff, Waco ISD police helps with some of that. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, sometimes they miss too much, they skip too much, and then they wind up with a meeting with one of my staff, which are the parent campus liaisons. Mm-hmm. And that's their job, is to interact with those kids to try to find out what's going on, how to try to work with them and try to keep them in school. Then if they continue to miss, then eventually by the laws of the state of Texas, then we have to take them to truancy court. Then they go before Judge Villarreal. So it's a complex process, a multifaceted effort to try to keep them in school. Then if they don't come to school, to try to get them back into school. Talk
about truancy court and what goes on when the parent and the student show up. I suppose both need to show up, right?
Both are required to show up. Both are required to answer, questions before the judge. And the judge works with each family. Judge Villarreal is our primary judge who works with our truancy cases, and he works really hard in an effort to try to get the kids back into school. He doesn't really want to punish them, doesn't really want to fine them. He does that sometimes, but that's not really his ultimate goal. His ultimate goal is to work with them, try to find out, what the reasons are behind their absences or tardies, and then try to sanction them to go back to school, get help with their grades, which is often the case.
Right.
If they're missing too much, they're falling behind in school, and he really works really hard. And that's our job, is to present those cases in court before the judge with an accurate accounting of days missed, their classes, how they're doing in their classes, are they struggling in one particular class, and he addresses each one individually and tries to work with them to help them. He wants them to finish school.
And one of the things you're doing this coming school year is working on some incentives. We want the children in school. We want those boys and girls to be in the class, because without that high school diploma, they're really headed to nowhere. Talk about some of the things you're trying to come up with to incentivize attendance.
Well, research also says that the first part of school is really important. If they start well, then they continue in school. If they don't, then it's a habit that unfortunately that kind of carries on. And so we're going to make a big push. We're developing an incentive program, going to offer some really good prizes for attendance, attendance initiatives, some on perfect attendance, some hopefully target some other days, and to really try to get the kids there. Probably more importantly, to just make them aware, keep in their mind that attendance is important. And so, but if we offer some prizes, we think, maybe that'll help some of the kids to stay. If they were thinking about not coming, maybe they'll come. And so we're going to start that at the beginning of the year. First 2 weeks of a set of prizes will be given, probably the second 2 weeks, and then carry it on. And then at the end of the year, some really nice prizes, an iPad, some things like that.
Yeah.
So,
sounds like a lot of fun. We have a robot calling system, an automatic calling system in the district that I believe you're going to put to use for something fun this year, something called Wake Up Waco. Of course, for the kids to get up and come to school, number one, they need to wake up on time and be on time, and you're going to try to help them do that in a very special way. Why don't you talk about Wake Up Waco?
We are. I found a program actually that they did in New York City, and they called it Wake Up New York City. And they enrolled a bunch of local celebrities, New York celebrities. They recorded wake-up calls. Hey, wake up! It's time to go to school. Education is important. You can't get ahead if you're not in school. Those kinds of things. And so we're going to take that, call it Wake Up Waco, and we're going to do the same thing in Waco. And kids can then sign up for a wake-up call. We'll use our school messenger system that we have. Plug in those calls, and they can select to be called at a certain time, and they'll get a celebrity wake-up call to encourage them to go to school. And we're going to run that for about a month.
And I know our webmaster has been working on some web pages and a sign-up form for kids to do just that.
That's right. And then we're gonna be going to several of the before-school events that are being held around town. Talk about that, talk about some other things, talk about our attendance initiative, and also talk about drop back into school, which will also start at the beginning of this next school year.
Right, and that is the third part of your duties, Dropout Recovery, and that is something special. Drop Back Into School, an initiative that started about a year or so ago, at two particular times a year, one as the normal school year is beginning, and then one as the new year comes about. So talk a little bit about Drop Back Into School.
Well, there are two times when people are thinking about school, and one is when their kids are going to school, or when school starts. There's a lot of talk about school and getting ready for school, and people that have not finished school, they're kind of thinking about it as well. And so we're gonna show up some different events in town, and we talk about ways for them to drop back into school and provide contact information through a web page, through a survey, through attending these other events, where we can talk to people who say, hey, I want to get I really need to finish my school. I want to continue on in school. It's not just high school. Of course, that's my work. But if perhaps somebody wanted to go to MCC or TSTC, really what we do and drop back into school is take their information and then get it out to the right, where we feel like would be the right place for them to start and figure out where they need to pick up in order to get where they want to go.
Right, whether it's Waco ISD if they're still young enough.
Correct.
And far enough along to where before age 21, I think we can service them before they're
Correct.
21. But you mentioned MCC, other avenues they could go. We try everything we can to funnel them in the right direction.
And there are a lot of different opportunities of different kinds in Waco. Some people won't be able to finish their high school diploma, but we'll get them into another program, maybe help them get their GED, then they can move on to higher level of education if that's what they want to do.
Haven't known you for a long time, but one thing I've learned in the short time I've known you is you're very passionate about what you're doing right now. I'm not saying you weren't passionate about being the bus driver when you first moved to Waco, but tell me about your passion for education and your background before you came to Waco.
Well, before I came to Waco, I spent 25 years in full-time ministry, church ministry, preaching the last 15 of those, and my wife took a job here, and so I ended up here trying to find work in the secular world, which was a real eye-opener. But I found one job with Waco ISD, and then I was fortunate enough to get this job, and I consider it a ministry, and I can't think of anything more important than working with the families and the kids here in McLennan County to help them to get their education. To stay in school, to be able to make something of themselves, and that and to be able to interact with those kids and those families on a regular basis. Yeah, I'm passionate about it.
In the short time you've been here, have you already seen some success stories?
Oh yes, and that's one of the reasons I spent a good bit of time when I first took the job in court, because I wanted to know not just what my parent campus liaisons did or what the court liaisons did. I wanted to see the families. I wanted to see the kids. I wanted to interact with them. I wanted to see how the whole process works. And sure, you sit in court and sometimes you shake your head and scratch your head and you wonder, will they succeed? And then at other times you've seen kids that have struggled, and the judge has helped them, and sure enough, they're caught back up, or they've graduated, or whatever. And yeah, there are plenty of success stories as well. So
great,
they're worthwhile.
Once again, we're talking with David Ellis. He is the supervisor for attendance, truancy, and dropouts and dropout recovery at Waco ISD. Anything else you want to add about your job or the city of Waco or your day-to-day life here in your new location?
Well, as I said, I came to work, here in Waco. My wife first took a job here, and now she's doing some other things with Waco ISD. She's been an administrator, then she was a principal at Carver, and now this year she's back at administration, and she's now director of curriculum and instruction. So she stays pretty busy. I'm really proud of her and what she's doing for the district as well.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for everything you do, and have a fantastic 2013-14 school year, and let's continue to improve attendance across the board.
Thank you.
This is David Ellis. He is the supervisor for attendance, truancy, and dropout recovery at Waco ISD. He has been our special guest on this edition of Know Your Schools. My name is Dale Caffey, and we'll see you next time.